Without action, words are just words. Without violence, laws are just words. Violence isn't the only answer, but it is the final answer. Words of Mr. Jack Donovan from an essay entitled Violence is Golden. If you aren't already familiar with it, you should familiarize yourself with it. It's a brilliant essay, and you should probably read some of Mr. Donovan's other works. I would only amend this in one way. Without violence, policy is just policy. You can only go so far with talk. Even offering money to back up things like that, substantial sums of money, by the way, offered by people with whom I vehemently disagree. Talk is just talk. And to further, talk is just talk. That same party with whom I disagree tweeted this out. Well, his handlers did a few years back. Trump talks tough on Venezuela, but admires thugs and dictators like Nicolas Maduro. As president, I will stand with the Venezuelan people and for democracy. But without violence, that talk is just talk. And with the current president committed to undertaking that violence, policy was actually put into effect. Now, there's been a lot of backlash that this is somehow out of step with the whole philosophy of America first. What is foreign entanglement? What does regime change, war? What does this, that, or the other thing have to do with America first? Let me give you a little bit of background. This photo was taken in 1976 when Carlos Perez came into power in Venezuela. He made major offerings to U.S. oil companies. They have arguably the first or second largest certifiable oil reserves on the planet, right in our backyard, right in our hemisphere, that being the important point. And he made massive concessions to U.S. oil companies to come in, get that oil out of the ground, and process it. Now, Carlos Perez identified himself as a social democrat or a democratic socialist, as we've come to know it in recent history. But his economic policies were strictly capitalist. His social undertakings, as a general rule, followed the capitalist model. The same could not be said for this gentleman on the right. You may or may not be familiar with him. His name is Hugo Chavez. You may or may not be familiar with the man standing next to him, fellow by the name of Castro. If you're not caught up to speed on that, where the hell have you been? In any case, in the early 90s, the man with the red beret tried to take power in Venezuela away from the democratically elected leadership by way of a coup. Violent coups are, just an everyday occurrence in that part of the world. But this one was unsuccessful. And like another couple of dictators that we could name in world history, he did a couple of years in the penitentiary. He did a couple of years in the regime's prison for that attempted coup, which failed. He would later, however, be swept into power by massive popular vote and massive popular demand. Like, well, every communist dictator, he came in promising the world, and he delivered for a minute. But as Margaret Thatcher once said, the problem with socialism is eventually you run out of other people's money. At that point, his regime, like so many others in the region, held on to its power simply by means of violence. That final part of the equation that Mr. Donovan was speaking of. And he was good at it. That regime was excellent at those acts of violence. But somewhere in betwixt and between, all of these U.S. oil company assets got nationalized, which is a nice way of saying stolen. They were taken without compensation. And even under international law, verdict after verdict has come down in the favor of the oil companies. They are owed billions of dollars. We'll get into the specifics of it a little bit later on. And with Chavez in power, they hung on to the facilities, they hung on to the equipment. Those refineries kept churning out money, and that money was sifted off the top to go to the cronies as the people starved. Again, a common theme among those democratic, socialist slash communist governments. Nicolas Maduro was his hand-picked successor. And for all the hostility that Hugo Chavez had against the United States of America, this guy this guy took that and ran with it in spades. And as a result, down the line, there was eventually a blockade put in place by the first Trump administration. You're not going to be able to ship that oil until you pay us back the money that you owe us. And in response, Maduro did his part for the global anti American effort. One of the things that he did was to open all of Venezuela's prisons. We're talking rapists, murderers, all of them. And thanks to Biden's open border policies, Maduro was able to send those people north to cross our southern border, such as it was at the time. And Tren de Aragua, a narco-terrorist gang out of the country of Venezuela, was able to establish a foothold here, taking over entire complexes, apartment complexes in places like Aurora, Colorado, and all over the country. The fentanyl that these adorable children of God here managed to bring into the country were responsible for hundreds of thousands of deaths. I know I am not the only one who has lost more than one friend to the poison that has been coming into this country. This is a picture of a police officer who was accidentally overdosed just by coming into touch contact with that fentanyl. This is lethal stuff. And it's fueled a wave of crime and murder all over the United States of America at the behest of and enabled by communist China. Just recently, we started, our administration, Trump, Orange Man, Darth Cheeto, the Mango Menace, started blowing up drug boats. Drug boats that were sent, again, at the behest of China, with Venezuela acting as the intermediary in an act of fifth generation warfare against the United States. Now, Bart, come on now. This isn't about drugs, man. Don't be naive. Right, because I'm naive and I'm not one to do my reading. Think about it, man. If this was really about the drugs, we'd go after our neighbor to the south. We'd be going after Scheinbaum. We'd be going after the Mexican cartels. This isn't about the drugs, bro. It's about the oil. And my response to that is, you're goddamn right it is about the oil. We are talking about the same communist Chinese government engaged in fifth generation warfare, looking at the big picture, the long term against the United States of America. This is a multi-pronged attack, and they fully planned on being in charge of those oil reserves, which, let me remind you, are right there in our backyard, along with establishing a presence and control of the major trade route, the Panama Canal. In more recent history, Darth Cheeto, the Mango Menace, has started to enforce again that oil embargo, accused of piracy on the high seas by seizing Venezuelan oil tankers who were transporting that oil against international law, against international court decisions, against any semblance of human behavior for the money that we were owed. Yes, it's about the oil. And that oil is right in our backyard. And that oil was potentially going to be seized by our most prominent, most effective, and arguably most powerful adversary. And the problem with that would be what? How familiar are y'all with the concept of fifth generation warfare? How familiar are y'all with the concept of hybrid warfare? With the fact that there will never be a Red Dawn scenario here in the United States by way of the Chinese invading. It's not going to come like that. The supply lines would be overextended. So why, oh why, would they be buying up factories and farmland here in the United States to secure a supply chain in advance? Why would they be trying to undermine the social fabric of the United States? Because they know that a flat out military victory is not within the realm of possibility. Hybrid warfare, fifth generation warfare, goes across all fronts. The drugs are part of it. Seizing control of the trade routes are part of it. Seizing control of those oil reserves are part of it. And bet your ass, seizing control of the media arm, the propaganda ministry, is damn sure a part of it. We have to come to terms with the fact that there are people inside our government that are aiding people that they are betting on to win this clash of civilizations. We have to accept the unpleasant reality that many people in that propaganda ministry are enabling and encouraging and praying for that self-same victory. The collapse of the West, the collapse of the United States, and a global order, a global hegemonic order led by the Chinese Communist Party. Think it's hyperbole? Think it's exaggeration? I'd be willing to have that discussion. But in the meantime, between time, the people that are complaining that, well, Trump said that there are no new wars. And yeah, am I upset about that? Am I upset about us having to potentially be militarily involved in a conflict? You're damn right. That isn't what I voted for. But let's not be one to be given to false equivalencies. Just like the attack on Iran. At that first point, I was livid, over the moon livid, because I thought, here we go again with another war for empire. What did it turn out to be? A limited strike. The long-term war that everybody was chicken littling about at the time is yet to materialize. And these strikes that were successful in eliminating Maduro's henchmen and bringing him back to the United States to stand trial are another example of a limited strike. Now, I could be wrong. We may wind up with boots on the ground in Venezuela, and I will be loudly and vociferously and outspokenly against that. That is not what I voted for. But we've got to accept the fact that ideological Puritanism is not a luxury that we have anymore. It's just not. Bad people exist in the world. Bad empires exist in the world. Isolationism is not an option. And if we're going to be securing things, yes, I can see you making a substantial case against flexing our muscle halfway across the world. But you're going to look me in the face and tell me that we're not allowed to flex in our own backyard? We're not allowed to flex in our own freaking hemisphere? Do a quick little brush up on your geography, Sparky. How close is Venezuela to my friends in Houston? How close is Venezuela to Washington, D.C., for Christ's sake? You know, a man who was unpopular during his time, but try to say a bad word about him now because history's deified him, a man by the name of John Fitzgerald Kennedy. He once said that communism has sometimes succeeded as a scavenger, but never as a leader. It has never come to power in a country that was not disrupted by war or corruption or both. This is why we can't afford to get into long, drawn-out conflicts. We've had decades of that, and we're over it. Yes, Mr. Trump, we're watching you closely. We don't want long, drawn-out wars for empire. We don't want boots on the ground. We don't want another waste of America's oil and treasure. But these limited strikes are not the same. And speaking back with regard to fifth generation warfare and JFK's quote here about a country that was disrupted by war or corruption or both, how about war, corruption, or cowardice? To say that communism hasn't seized a foothold? We're going to ignore the fact that this jagoff just won as mayor of New York City, reassuring us that we will replace the frigidity of rugged individualism with the warmth of collectivism. Tell that to the dead Cambodians in the killing fields. Tell that to the dead Chinese farmers under Mao's great leap forward. The warmth of collectivism. The fact that we're in a position that we didn't have the luxury of even notifying Congress before undertaking this action, because this gentleman that you're looking at right there, Hakeem Jeffries, yeah, it's already come out that the minute he got wind of it, he took steps to notify Maduro that people were on the way to capture him. He took that initiative on his own. With friends like that, who needs enemies? With people like that in Congress, we don't have the luxury of going through the usual chain of command. And speaking of chain of command, when you've got people like General Milley, who, by the grace of God and the actions of Donald Trump, has been dismissed and had his security clearance revoked, when you have people who are part of the Joint Chiefs of Staff that see fit to undermine the chain of command of the United States military to notify their counterpart in China, when you have people like this in charge of the public discourse, in charge of public policy, the traitors are in our midst. So, not notifying these people or folks like him before going ahead with this and striking on behalf of the interest of preserving oil resources in our own hemisphere, I submit to you, sir or madam, what could be more America first than that? But that's just my opinion. I could be wrong. The beauty of being on our side is that we are allowed to engage in discourse, that we don't have to all work in lockstep, that we can agree to disagree, and that we are all on the same page as far as moving forward for the best interests of the United States as a nation and Western civilization as a prospect and a concept. So I'll put this before you. To quote Steven Crowder and the late Charlie Kirk, I'm just throwing this out here as an opinion. Change my mind. Prove me wrong. Let's talk about it. The opinions expressed by the Reverend are his own and no one else's on the planet. Not friends, not foes, not supporters, not detractors, not sponsors. And I cannot stress this enough, certainly not employers. That one's for the sake of you docs, happy Antifa maggots out there. Good luck with that. In any case, the aforementioned opinions have been adjudicated, thought crime in all jurisdictions. Consider yourself warned. They are coming from the heart. They are guided by the mind. They are guaranteed to stretch open that unwilling maw and force feed you fistfuls of truth cock until your eyes bleed or until you open them and see the light. And either way, mission accomplished. Welcome back, boys and girls. It's time once again for the Sunday sermon. Happy New Year. We got a lot to talk about, people, and I don't expect that we're going to agree, but the beauty of it is we can have the conversation, and we're about to. But first off, where's the drum roll, people? Come on. Hard charging out of the starting gate as we come reeling and rocking every single Sunday, with a few notable exceptions over the holiday season, to the strains of the band Red Desert Gut Stomping rock and roll band from the smoldering embers and crumbling ruins and now daycare-infested great American city of Minneapolis, Minnesota. The name of the band is Red Desert. The name of the track is Old and No Wiser. Every week I get a little bit older. Every week you guys get to decide if I've gotten any wiser. Some weeks I do better than others. Now this one may be an utter and abject failure in the eyes of many, but we're going to have the conversation because it needs to be had. Before we get on with that, man, I'm going to jump in here for the roll call. Looks like you guys have had a lively little conversation while you were waiting for me to show up. Brother Ryan taking the gold. God bless you, brother. Happy New Year. Glad you made it out. Let's see who else made it out, man. My favorite Frenchman, Brother Clem, who I was honored to have lunch with the other day, talking about some big plans going forward into the new year. God bless you, brother. I understand you might have to catch the replay. You're a busy man. You got a lot of stuff going on. I respect that. The OG Center Sister herself, the divine Miss Emmy. Mwah. Good to see you, sweetheart. Glad you made it out. Brother Dennis, OG Reverence Ranger and Prophet of Doom from all the way back in 1991, man. Can you believe it? What do you got? Fair warning? I may disappear mid-broadcast. My mother has been working on it. Look, man, I've had your mom's gumbo. You would be right to leave. Dude, I would beat up a stranger in front of his kids for some of that gumbo. So if you got to depart the podcast for a little while, brother, you have my blessing. Give your mom a kiss. Tell her I said Happy New Year and hello. The mighty, mighty Stone on board. Ola, all good to see you, brother, man. I think you are going to enjoy the way we're kicking off this new year. check it out, man. Lovely Miss Carrie. Glad you made it out. It means Brother Roman is probably hiding in the background somewhere. Speaking of beautiful women, check this out. Miss Charlie has decided to log on. Thank you, sweetheart. Glad you made it out. There's Roman. I knew he was going to be hiding out here somewhere present. Hi, everyone. We're eating beef, so you'll hear the beginning on Carrie's phone. All right, man. Well, I hope you got the volume turned down, or I would have already blown out the speakers by this point. But you've known me since '88, bro. You should be used to that by now. So if you didn't turn the volume down, that's on you, brother. Sorry. What do we got? Have to duck out. Trauma shift 9, not gumbo. Currently reevaluating that decision. I don't blame you, man. Honey, this close to a full moon, the fact that you took on the trauma shift, my hat's off to you, man. Yeah, I don't know what else I can say beyond that. Hey, check out who decided to join us. Hello there. Hello there. Good to see you, man. Glad you made it out. And let me see, Preacher George on board as well. I think you're going to dig this one, brother. And look, man, again, we are going to have the full conversation on all this. I'm not naive about the things that are going on here, man. And I've got a whole lot of conflict with everything, man. But I'm just trying to take it into the whole picture, and I'm glad that everybody's here. And I want y'all to be talking about it over here in the comments, man. Throw those comments out. I want y'all's input on this, man, because first of all, it's a dynamic thing that is still going on, but we want all the inputs here, and that's the beauty of our side, is that we are able to communicate. We don't have to do that ideological lockstep where everything is good, everything is bad, orange man good, orange man bad. We can have disagreements, and that's the beauty of it. Treasure Monk, check this out. It's all about China. Find me a country that they aren't doing all the construction. Yeah, brother, especially in Africa right now. And by the time the Chinese are done with Africa, they're going to be begging to have the Europeans back. The horrors of European colonialism. Oh, honey, you ain't seen nothing yet. We got Joel on board. Let me see. Hey, brother. Yep, good to see you. Who else am I missing, man? Seems like I must have skipped by somebody. Here we go. A lot closer than Iran, and I promise you we aren't done with them. No, we're not done with them. Not by a damn sight, man. There's going to be a lot of stuff going into this year that's going to, and a lot of people are going to feel a whole lot of ways about it, man. But this is not a black and white thing, man. And again, I want to stress, I am not the guru. I want you guys fact checking every damn thing that I say. And when I'm saying something that is in error, I want you to throw it out. Hey, Bart, I love you, bro. Like Mr. Joe Wisdom did a little bit earlier today. Brother, I love you, but you're off base. You're making Trump out to be one of them, which he is. Brother, point is well taken. But that is the strength of it, man. We need to be having those conversations. You know, just sitting back, waiting for that Maddow fella, you know, to give you your opinion. That is not our style, man. That is not our style. Right on. So, haven't been on in a while, but I couldn't miss this one. Yeah, brother, I think you're going to enjoy it, man. We're going to be rocking a whole lot of stuff right here. Some of which might have been predictable for you, and some of it not. I'm going to surprise a lot of people. I'm going to piss off a lot of people. But that's the best part of it, man, is that we can stand here and we can have these disagreements, and we're not going to come away thinking that anybody is less of a person. Let me go ahead and fade that bumper music out, and I'll get the outro music queued up and ready to rock and roll. My apologies, people. Keep in mind, it's just me out here with a laptop and a cell phone. That's all I got. So that's all the high quality production we got going on. Clearly, I am back in the field, getting ready to start back up tomorrow, back building the windmills. Still out here in the Texas Panhandle in Hereford, Texas. So as long as you see this in the background, I'm still working, and that's a good thing. So, but listen, man, I really appreciate you guys being out here and being on board. It's the first one of the new year. Let me wish everybody a happy new year, a happy, safe, as is possible, and prosperous new year for 2026. And man, we are coming hard, charging out of the starting gate with this one, aren't we, people? I mean, fraud all over the place. That's going on. We've got people finally working up the balls to say the important things that need to be said. We're going to be going into all that stuff. A couple of things I want to get out of the way real quick. Let's get the sponsor shout outs done. First and foremost, Brother Roman, one of my oldest and dearest friends over at opiumtales.com. You're going to want to check him out. You're going to want to check him out online or on Amazon rather as Roman Riva. Check out his books, Roman Freely. That's a collection of his watercolor work. He's also doing short fiction over there, and he is alive and kicking over on Substack as well. I am going into the new year, going to be posting a lot less on other platforms and a lot more going over to Substack, because the way I'm looking at it, when I post to Substack, there's a link on those other platforms. And, I'm tired of casting pearls before swine, just rant and raving and all this other stuff and being everybody's little, rant mongrel, and them just showing up. I mean, they're tourists, man. We're done with all that. So I say all that to say this: Roman is Opium Tales over at Substack. He's got his column. He is kicking out the jams over there. You're going to want to check him out, and you're going to want to check out Opium Tales. They are the erotic pinups and portraits people. We're talking beautiful naked women, tastefully done, beautiful watercolor painting work, and testosterone-driven commentary. On Planet Bart, we call that a trifecta, let alone the fact that Roman and I go all the way back to 1988, which I don't think I'm going too far out on a limb, may have been before some of you guys were even born. He's been a tremendous supporter of both myself and the program over the years. One of the most creative people I've ever met in my life, and a dear friend. Happy New Year, Roman and Carrie. God bless y'all. I love y'all. Thanks for being out here. Second sponsor shout out. Where would we be without my Viking brothers, Casey and Dusty Tellison, over at Nordic Smoke Barbecue? They are the only legit barbecue in the Inland Northwest, period. End of statement. Sit down. Shut up. You're wrong. The long ship, the big smoker trailer, is out sailing the asphalt seas. They're still down for catering gigs. You guys missed out on the Thanksgiving and Christmas turkey. Again, at the Bart Bunker, you guys know they've been smoking the holiday turkeys at the Bart Bunker since 2014, and never looked back, man. They are fantastic people putting out a fantastic product. If you are in the Inland Northwest, the Spokane area in particular, check them out. Nordic Smoke Barbecue. Dusty, the pitmaster over there, Casey, has gone on to bigger and better things. He has passed the Washington State bar exam. He is a practicing attorney now. I've got him on retainer. You should as well. He's a phenomenal human being, and he's also an author. Speaking of books on Amazon, there is a book entitled Freaks of a Feather. It is published by Latah Press out of Spokane, Washington, and available on Amazon. It is, and this is all the lead I should ever need to give any book on the planet, it is a combat memoir that began as a suicide note. If that doesn't get your attention, check your pulse. You may be lacking a heart and a soul. It's worth checking out. The man is a phenomenally gifted writer and a hell of a human being, combat vet, just top-notch guy across the board. Take care of the people that take care of the program. Take care of the people that take care of each other. And we got to look out, people. We are the community. No one is coming to save us. Like minds and kindred spirits taking care of each other. Vote with your dollar. It's one of the few powers that we still have left. So take care of those folks. And again, and like when I passed the collection plate around, keep in mind, if you're looking back here and you're seeing motel room background, that means that I'm out here and I'm working, right? So I'm not hard up for money when that's coming. So if you're going to send me something, send it to some of the guys that are taking care of the program. That also goes for our bumper music guys, as fellas Red Desert. Heck of a band, man. Buy some of their merch, download some of their music and actually pay for it, Napster generation. But they've been letting me use that track as bumper music now for going on 6 years. Can you believe it's going to be 6 years in April? This just started out as me ranting and raving, trying to get it off my chest about all the stuff that was going on with COVID and the ridiculousness surrounding that. So, in any case, folks, vote with your dollar. Take care of the people that are taking care of the program. Let's jump off into this thing. Since we've got brother Jeff Truitt here, Treasure Monk, by the way, Treasure Monk. You're going to want to check out his channel on YouTube. Jeff and I go back all the way to grade school, man, and he has carved out a very, very interesting life for himself. He has been a team medic for military contractors and security details, getting trigger time in multiple time zones. He actually worked for Paul Bremer and guys from the State Department. He's been a rig medic. He is a treasure hunter by hobby. He likes to go and do the metal detector thing. Very interesting cat. He's carved out an incredible life for himself. What he has done most recently is he has, he has renewed his interest in the faith, as so many people did in the wake of the savage murder of Charlie Kirk last year. And he posed a question to me. He was like, "Hey, man, do you do any kind of Bible study?" I don't know why I hadn't thought of that before he brought it up, because here I am with this platform. Here I am trying to do the work of the kingdom, and I never just thought, how about some Bible study in between? And as a result, we have made that a segment. We've made that a segment. And hey, G Dub, glad you made it out, brother. Glad you made it out. We have made that a segment. So every Sunday now, we do a little scripture passage and put some context to it for some people who are already in the faith, for some people who may be dipping their toes in the pond, for some people who have a little bit of experience with it and just don't really read a whole lot. I'm going to tell you something, people. I put away at least one chapter a night, and that's not to puff my own pecker or celebrate my accomplishments, anything like that. I say it as a guidepost. I say it as this is something that we all can do. It does not take that long to sit down and read one chapter of scripture a night. Where do I need to begin? I leave that to the Spirit, brother. I leave that to the boss man, the carpenter, the Spirit, to put it on your heart where you need to be. Starting with the four Gospels is always good. Starting in the Old Testament, where it's still fire and brimstone, vengeance and wrathful God, if that's your speed, go for it. Ultimately, the Spirit's going to he's going to put it on your heart where you need to be in the scriptures. I have been revisiting the four Gospels, and I'm currently in the Gospel of John. And we've got a few passages right here, and it's all going to tie together, and it'll all make sense in a minute. Let's just jump right in, shall we? The Gospel of John, chapter 16, verses 2 and 3. They will put you out of the synagogues. Yes, the time is coming that whoever kills you will think that he offers God a service. And these things they will do to you because they have not known the Father nor me. Now, that's the New King James Version. We could do the original King James Version. They will put you out of the synagogue. In fact, that was King James. Then we got New King James Version. They will put you out of the synagogue. In fact, the time is coming when anyone who kills you will think that they are offering a service to God, because they will do such things because they have not known the Father or me. What this is an indictment of a lot of people in the church. These are people who should be our closest allies. These are people who should be on our side, uh, backing the doctrine, backing the faith. But the adversary, being who he is, has sown the seeds of division. There is a rift that is developing. A lot of people have become almost pharisaical. That's my new favorite adjective, by the way. Thank you, Brother Omar, for that. But they have become quite pharisaical in their approach, as in, we are the true meaning of Christ. You're not being a real Christian. And a lot of that is coming from the fact that many of us have decided to cleave tighter to the doctrine as it stands, that people are no longer willing to be that halfway Christian. People are no longer willing to be that soft, roll over and play dead, I don't want to be confrontational Christian. That a lot of us are like, no, bro, we're not going along to get along here. Tolerance is not a Christian virtue. This behavior is not biblical. This particular socially acceptable and lauded thing is not biblical, and we're willing to get in your face about it. And what have they done? They have made us out to be Christian nationalists, and I've heard it both with people who are, these are people with like doctorate degrees in theology, things like that, that have become the media darlings because they're getting on and explaining to them how, no, that's not really the Spirit of Christ. A real Christian doesn't behave that way. And we've got to distance ourselves, and they come up with the terms for us, Christian nationalists and whatever it is, MAGA Christianity, whatever the hell that means. If you're down with the doctrine, you are down with the doctrine. If you are preaching false doctrine or deliberately taking that doctrine out of context to paint this picture, the fact that any Christian is being consulted as a supervisor for MSNBC whenever there's a story about the faith having to come out, knowing how anti-Christian, knowing how anti-faith, knowing how anti-Christ these people are, the fact that they're bringing him in as their token Jesus guy should let you know exactly what his bona fides are, or more to the point, are not. And they are fomenting a division. They are fomenting a separation to get people folded away from the faith and into the loving arms of the state, to where when it turns, and it is turning, okay, we've gone into that at length in previous sermons. When it turns, these are the people who are going to sell you out. These are the people who are going to take the mark because Mr. Token Jesus guy told them, no, 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 no. That's not what it really says. No, taking the mark isn't really a divorce from Christ. You have to interpret it this way. These people aren't real Christians. You have to understand, and it's right and good to turn them in. These people will gulag your ass. They will turn you in to be tortured and murdered, and they won't think anything of it. They will literally think that they are doing God a service. Keep in mind, the guy that said this wasn't one of the apostles. This wasn't a prophet. This wasn't a bystander or an unindicted co-conspiracy or an unindicted co-conspirator. This was the carpenter, bro. This was Christ saying this. I think John is probably my favorite of the four Gospels. I find it more relatable than any of the other three for any number of reasons, but the plain speech of the narrative is a big part of it. They will put you out of the synagogue. In fact, the time is coming when anyone who kills you will think they are offering a service to God. They will do such things. Why? Because they have not known the Father, nor have they known me. Mark 13:22, many false prophets. If you see someone on who is the subject matter expert on one of these leftist news outlets, know in your heart, son, know in your heart, if he gives you some genuine doctrine, it is accidental at best. Just like I expect you to fact check every word that comes out of my mouth, to fact check every verse, to read that verse and to read the chapter before and the chapter after so you have proper context on it. I'm not the authority here. The problem is a lot of people are lazy and they see this guy, good intentioned people, let's say, people who are kind-hearted. They don't have any pre-existing anti-Christian bias in their hearts, but they really just don't understand because they haven't read the gospel. And she's got, oh wow, he's got a doctorate in theology, and he said that Jesus said this. Oh wow, so these people are, and they're easily misled, man, because they don't spend actual time in the Word. They don't spend actual time in the Scriptures. If you don't have a Bible, get one. If you have one and you're not reading it, start. Because they are selling you in accordance with the Gospel of Mark, chapter 13, verse 22. Those false prophets are walking among us, and they are presenting a very, very faulty view of the carpenter. John Stott, this was a fella, and this is not to speak 100% for or against Stott's work. It's just a proper quote for the narrative that we're generating here. The popular image of Christ as gentle Jesus, meek and mild, simply will not do. It is a false image. Certainly, he was full of love, compassion, and tenderness, but he was also uninhibited when it came to exposing error and denouncing sin, especially what? Especially what? Hypocrisy. Christ was a controversialist. We've had too much of the hippie Jesus and not enough of that fashioning and braiding a whip himself, table flipping Jesus. Not enough of that going around. Come to your own conclusions, but the only way you're going to know is to spend some time in the Word. And I'm going to throw these out again from the Gospel of John, chapter 8. Jesus said unto them, now this is not, he's not preaching to pagans or to worshipers of Baal or to non-believers or to skeptics or to people who are coming at it with a preconceived notion of, well, we hate this whole religious order, period, man. We're going to go sacrifice some babies to our owl god, whatever. He's not preaching to. He is talking to the high priests of today, of the day, rather. They were the top of the religious order. They were the ones that people went to when they wanted to know, hey, man, what does God have in mind for me? These were the people that he went to. And Christ went to those folks and went, no, you're wrong. And who would know better? Who would know better than the only begotten Son of God? They didn't accept that, and this particular Pharisaical order still does not accept Christ as a Redeemer. That's a discussion for another time. Where it ties in to what I'm trying to discuss with you here is the fact that the people that ordinary folks are counting on to inform them properly about what God has in mind for them can turn that on its head and present false doctrine because these people don't know any better. And it's up to you as a Christian, it's up to me as a Christian to be willing to step up, no matter, it doesn't matter what it costs you socially. Doesn't matter how many friends you're going to lose over it. Doesn't matter how many family members aren't going to talk to you anymore. I am going to speak the truth about the carpenter if it short dicks every cannibal on the Congo and hair lips every hillbilly on Buck Creek. I'm going to continue to speak the truth. And I encourage you to get yourself into the word. I encourage you to get yourself into it and to make these judgments for yourself. From the same book, carpenter going to the priest, Jesus said unto them, if God were your father, ye would love me. For I proceeded forth and came from God, neither came I of myself, but he sent me. Sorry, I skipped one there. There we go. Sorry, I went to the wrong one. Ye are of your father the devil, and the lusts of your father ye will do. He was a murderer from the beginning and abode not in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own, for he is a liar and the father of it. You understand? See what we got going on here? What do we say? Why do ye not understand my speech, even because ye cannot hear my word? And because I tell you the truth, ye believe me not. In other words, the high priest is spitting lies, man. The high priest is spitting lies. Lies and hypocrisy. He's calling them out on it. If ye knew the Father, you would understand. And if you read, oh my goodness, man, the storytelling in the Gospel of John is so powerful. You're in that moment. You can see him walking among them, the contempt in their eyes, the fear in them, that their self-imposed order is about to be usurped. It is amazing, amazing storytelling, powerful stuff, man. You can see the carpenter walking among them, and you, and you, and you, liar, hypocrite. Call them out to their face. And they're standing around acting like they get. Well, there's a meme going around now that half of the problem with discourse with the left, half the problem with the left is them just pretending that they don't understand what you're talking about. So it's impossible to have any discourse. It's a funny little meme. But in this particular setting, it directly applies. They're acting like, well, what are you saying? What are you really saying? They know exactly what he's saying. They just don't want to confront it. So he calls them out. Do you not understand what I'm saying? I know why you don't understand what I'm saying. Because I'm telling you the truth. And so because I'm telling you the truth, you act like you can't hear me. That's it, brother. That's it. That's where we've arrived. So be very, very careful. And I encourage you guys, please, man. And that includes me. All right? I'm not the authority here. I am not the last revelation. I'm not a guru. I'm not some subject matter expert, spiritual authority with a doctorate in theology or anything like that. What I am doing is I'm speaking the truth as the Spirit has put it on my heart from my reading of the gospel. Your mileage may vary, as they say. But the only way you're going to know is if you put your face in some scripture, like I'm telling you guys to do every single week, and start using your God-given gift of what is one of the things, strength, clarity, and what that I ask you guys to pray for every week. Your discernment. The only way you were going to be able to use that discernment is if you've got your face in the scripture and not some ranting, toothless crane operator with some opinions giving it to you by the spoonful. I don't want you guys to see it the way I see it. I want you guys to see it and read it and let the Spirit put on your heart what is true and what is not. May God bless you in the effort. May you become closer to Christ in the process, and may the Spirit guide your efforts in that direction. And one last one, in the same theme, when he's calling them out. Again, getting back to that John Stott quote, man, about the gentle Jesus, popular image, gentle Jesus, meek and mild. First of all, meek. Meek's got nothing to do with being weak. Meek is being able to do some damage and keeping that under control, firstly. But this hippie Jesus that John Stott's talking about is a false doctrine. You better believe it. You get your face in some scripture, you're going to figure out real quick these people that, oh no, he was just loving and radical acceptance and turn the other cheek. And don't be confrontational. Go along to get along. Don't be judging people. That hippie Jesus nonsense they've been selling it, you put your own face in some scripture. That's going to fall apart for you pretty quick, Sparky. One last one I'm going to drop on you. And again, he's in the midst of them. He's calling them out. This one in a different gospel, book of Matthew. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees. There's that H word again. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites. For ye are like unto whited sepulchres, which indeed appear beautiful outward, but are within full of dead men's bones and of all uncleanness. Even so ye also outwardly appear righteous unto men, but within ye are full of hypocrisy and iniquity. That fellow that MSNBC keeps bringing on, his name escapes me for the moment. You guys probably know it. Feel free to put it over here in the comments. But this guy, I watch him spew, man. And boy, don't he come off clean cut. Boy, don't he come off virtuous and righteous. He is lying directly to your face. And there's no way, as a doctor of theology, that he doesn't know that he's deliberately misrepresenting things to tie into a particular agenda. He is a vile human being. And as a follower of Christ, I am compelled to forgive him. I am compelled to pray for him. And I do that sincerely. I hope that he has that moment of revelation where something snaps inside him and goes, I am a filthy, wretched liar. I am serving the prince of darkness. I can't live with myself anymore. And he comes to the light. I sincerely pray for that. But in the meantime, it is my duty to call guys like him out. It is my duty to confront men like that. It is your duty to stand up to those people and confront them and call them out. If you are going to wear that on your shield, if you are going to walk around with one of these around your neck, if you are going to walk around claiming the doctrine, then you better know the doctrine, first of all, well enough to back it up, and you better be unafraid to step to people, no matter where it is. Cash register at a freaking convenience store, water cooler at work, somebody spewing false doctrine, you call them out. Oh, bro, it could get me in trouble, man. Dude, my life is really rough. I'm not sure if I want that complication. Okay. That's how you feel about it, Sparky. Just remember that your debt was already paid, and he went through a hell of a lot more suffering than that. I'll leave it to you. That's between you and your conscience. And I do understand. Let me check myself real quick. I do understand. Sometimes you are in a position where it feels like there is too much to lose. I wouldn't ask you to jeopardize the safety of your child, obviously. But you understand what I'm saying. Too much of this go along to get along. Too much of this, I don't really want to talk about it because, especially when the excuse is this. When the excuse is, I don't really know enough about it to really say anything. Okay, Well, if that is the case, maybe you should be quiet for the moment, but that better redouble your effort when you get home to catch yourself up to speed and be able to defend those points. Do you know how many souls we lose every day because somebody asks somebody a basic question on the faith and they can't answer it? Inexcusable, man. No more. No more of that. So, that is the scriptural part of the program today. And again, thank you to Brother Jeff Truitt for putting that on. Oh, man, check it out. Brother Sonny made it out. Oh, brother, God bless you and Happy New Year. Love to the family. All of that. Oh, my goodness. My goodness. I'm glad you made it out, brother. I understand that you have been a very busy man. Let's see. And by the way, guys, if you did not see that repost of the little essay that Brother Sonny gave to us. And I hope, Sonny, I hope you did post that on your Substack as well. One of the things that I'm going to have going for the new year is my rants are going to be a lot more on Substack than they are on Facebook. I'm just done with it. But this one happened to be posted on Facebook, and I reposted it. And I think the header that I put was like, sit your ass down and read this. That is all. If you haven't checked that out, go check it out. Definitely. As far as I'm concerned, I think it may be one of the, if it's not the best damn thing I've ever seen him put out, it's definitely in the top 5. So we'll leave it at that. This is why the phrase from Jordan Peterson that used to annoy me is now, to me, is the most honest and courageous statement about expressing views and opinions as far as I can tell. Yes, knowing and understanding isn't the same. Absolutely, brother. Absolutely. Oh, man, check it out. Deacon Mark made it out as well, man. Love to you, Anita. Happy New Year. Man, it's like the whole crew is here. My goodness, my whole Jacksonville crew is here. Guys, I got to have lunch with Clem the other day. That was a great conversation, and I'm glad that y'all are here. And Brother Sonny, yes, that's a very important point, and again, that's one of the reasons why I'm taking time. I'm making sure to take the time to explain that I am not the final arbiter, man. That I'm not the final arbiter. I am not the authority. I am not the guru. What I want is for people to ground themselves in that scripture on their own, to use their discernment to come to the truth of the matter. The only thing I'll call out directly is when you do know that these people are spewing some false doctrine, and they know it as well as you do. They're just counting on the fact that you don't know it. Iron Pig Argument, check it out. Speaking of brothers in Christ, man, it's like a family reunion today. I love y'all, man. Iron Pig Argument is a good read. I shared it as well. Yes, sir. That is Brother Turtle, Doug over at Iron Pig Armament. Go check out the product over there, guys. The pig in a blanket product, the carbines and stuff that he's building over there. And you know what? It's just out of arm's reach, but that blade that you gifted me, good sir, is always close by. In fact, I could probably take a couple of steps and get it right now. But yes, fantastic. All right, so how about we jump back into the bullet point now that we got the scripture part of it covered, and that is a right and good thing. And again, thanks to Jeff Truitt for inspiring that not so very long ago when he asked if I'd actually made that a part of the program, ever had it as part of the program. So the odd dynamics of cultural apologies. That's bullet point number 1. And I know you guys are down for the Venezuela stuff, and we are going to get to it. That's why I'm wanting to knock this stuff out so we can devote the proper amount of time and energy to the Venezuela stuff. The odd dynamics of cultural apologies. So you guys may have noticed about a week ago, Vice President J.D. Vance, in the United States of America, you don't have to apologize for being white anymore. Oh my goodness. Well, you knew the kind of fallout that was going to generate. Excuse me, guys. Give me 1 second here. You had to have known the fallout that was going to generate. And of course, the knee-jerk response was the gaslighting and the revisionist history. This literally never happens, bro. Nobody's ever asked anybody to apologize for being white. at the forefront of this, predictably, a guy who, if anybody did need to apologize for being white, it is this man, because he is painting white men in a public light that we never deserved. Tim Walsh was the first guy to get up. I don't know. It's obvious that it's white supremacy talking here. Nobody in the world has ever asked anybody to apologize for being white. All right, Timmy, you're right. That's never ever happened. I mean, except for this little thing back in 2020 at the beginning of the fentanyl Floyd riots. Um, Everybody bowing down and oh, woe is me, white guilt, we're terrible people. Yeah, right. Nobody's ever asked us to apologize. I mean, except for, oh wait, there was this one prominent media figure prostrating themselves at the altar of white guilt as well. And then oh wait, there was, oh yeah, this thing right here where even the cops were bowing down and washing their feet as a gesture of, we're so guilty, we hate ourselves, we are for all the wrongs that we have done to you. But the counterpoint would be, well, yeah, but nobody actually asked them to do that. Nobody actually asked them to do this. Oh, what? Oh wait, yeah, they did. You guys can go back and look up the photographs and the video evidence of everything that I'm presenting here. Again, anything that I present here is stuff that I've already done the homework on, man. Fact check me on it. Do not take my words for anything. Yes, this actually happened. They asked white people on the street to bow down and apologize for systemic racism and to literally kiss their feet. And this young lady was not the only one to oblige them. Then, when that wasn't enough, it wasn't black folks asking these people to apologize. This was a BLM protest. You guys look really hard. I can't find a single black person in this crowd. Can you? Oh, wait, no. Like just up and to the left a little bit. That's one arm there that looks like it might be black, but the rest of the crowd is overwhelmingly white. And this was one of dozens of demonstrations where they would walk straight into restaurants and demand that patrons apologize for their white privilege and their white guilt. But remember, nobody ever asked anybody to apologize for this stuff. And again, another example, kissing the feet, all these other things. This was another restaurant. Yeah, but nobody's ever asked anybody to apologize. Clearly, this is white supremacy at work here. Yeah. You guys take a look at that. Can you read any of those? No, of course you can't, because they're packed in too tightly. This was a list that I compiled from online with the words asked, white, and apologize, right? Why should white people apologize for this? White people need to apologize for that. Apologies are required from white people, this, that, or the other thing. If anyone would like, please send me a message. I will send you the JPEG of this, and you can read and authenticate every one of these headlines for yourself. I am not trying to mislead you. So this whole thing of this never happens, I think we can pretty much put that to bed. Now that we've established the facts of the matter, here's what I'll say to you. The funniest part of all of this has got to be, we never asked you to apologize. You better apologize for saying that. Bro, at some point, the gaslighting just gets overwhelming. All that I'm going to say is this. I never apologized in the first place. I didn't apologize in the first place. Nor will you ever hear me apologize. Nor should anyone of any race, any bloodline, anything. No one owes anyone an apology as part of a collective. I may owe you an apology as a human being if I've been a particularly belligerent dick that day. I may owe you an apology, but I do not owe you any apology on behalf of my blood or my people. Oh, but there have been so many atrocities committed by, yeah, there's a support group for that, Sparky. It's called Everyone. They meet at the UN. Maybe you should show up for a hearing. Might be enlightened. Open a history book. Just a thought. Anyhow, what I will say to you is this, is if you are so inclined, Another reminder from that same year. All of those that I showed you, by the way, all those previous pictures that I showed you, that was all from 2020. That was all from the year of our Floyd, 2020, when a man overdosed and had the bad fortune of having cops present when he overdosed on fentanyl. And of course, the world erupted. And all of those pictures were from 2020. This picture was from 2020 as well. This was the Bradford Community Church, a Unitarian Universalist church, as designated on the sign, and they put it right out front. Black Lives Matter. You notice it's on fire. What is the caption? All your virtue signaling won't save you. This is the absolute truth. God forbid it ever come down to a conflict between races. God forbid. Particularly in modern multicultural America, the numbers being what they are, it would be an epic bloodbath, the likes of which biblical prophets couldn't have entertained. Okay? But if you think that all your virtue signaling and being one of the good ones or being an ally is going to save you in that instance, you could not be more mistaken. And your life and the lives of the people that you love are riding on it. You need to get your heads around some very unpleasant realities. What was J.D. Vance even saying when he said that? It is because culturally, yes, there has been systemic and cultural pressure for us to constantly prostrate ourselves over the original sin of slavery. Read Thomas Sowell's work on slavery. If you want an historically accurate perspective that does not exonerate us pale faces, but actually paints with facts and figures and a historical timeline the way things actually break down with regard to this stuff. Yes, there has been pressure. Yes, we have been told as part of our public school curriculum that we are uniquely guilty and horrible and colonization and yada yada, all of this stuff. And all that J.D. Vance is saying, a man who is married to an East Indian woman, by the way, but somehow is still a white supremacist. Go figure out how that works. He's just saying that we are literally back to it's by the content of their character. And this is the thing where certain demographics are concerned, as we're about to jump into the Somalia thing. We have been judging them by the content of their character all along. And there we have the problem. If you think that being an ally is going to save you, if you think that apologies are going to save you, all of these people that you see kissing these boots, all of these people who you see bowing down and kowtowing and all of this other stuff, did that pacify them? Are we all good now? Did we say, did these people did these people prostrate themselves and embarrass themselves and go through this humiliation ritual and this Maoist struggle session? Did that appease them? Did that magically take the heat off of them? Take one look at any mainstream media broadcast and tell me that it did one thing to assuage anything. It is not going to save you. It will never be enough. And I say that not for African Americans as a race. I say that for the left as a side. The difference between wokeism and any other fundamentalist religion, particularly Christianity being the notable exception. With Christ, there was redemption. He died to carry the weight of our sins. He scratched off our debt. He carried that. And through him and his death and his conquering of death, we are redeemed. We confess our sins. We repent of those sins. We turn from those sins and we atone for those sins. And then those sins are forgiven. With the fundamentalist religion of wokeism, there is no provision. There is confession, right? There is repentance And there is atonement, but there's a crucial element that's missing there, and that is the fourth element: forgiveness. There is no forgiveness. You will never be forgiven for the imagined crimes with which you have been charged by this crowd, ever. So stop. Stop apologizing. You have already confessed, you have repented, and damn sure you have atoned. Stop. Because if you think in the final analysis, God forbid it goes south, your apologies are not going to save you. Ask these folks if that is going to save you. Ask Amy Beale and her family if that is going to save you. Ask any white farmer in Rhodesia. Oh, wait. It's not going to save you. You can spend time practicing your apology, or you can spend time working up the resilience and strength to be able to stand on business and never apologize. What you choose to undertake is on you. That's my advice, and I'm going to leave it there. How about that? Bullet point number 2, moving on. Again, that is the odd dynamics of cultural apologies. Here's the thing about the Somalia problem, and you knew we were going to jump into that, and I'll keep it short because, again, what we really want to get to is Venezuela. The Somalia thing has already been talked to death, so I'll try to keep it to 5 minutes or less here. Last week, this fella right here, Nick Shirley. Now, you guys have been familiar with Nick Shirley. If you follow conservative media or conservative social media at all, you're well familiar with Nick Shirley, and you've probably been praying for the guy for a minute, because this guy, good Lord, he should have been a crane operator. Why? Because the kid could use his balls as a counterweight. He will walk into places just this little. I mean, look at him, bro. As a physical specimen, he's not a particularly intimidating dude, right? I don't know that he's ever been in a physical altercation in his life. Now, for all I know, he may be a Gracie Baja black belt. I have no freaking idea. Maybe in another life he was John freaking Wick. But to look at the kid, I don't think he's been a scrap in his life. And yet he will walk right up into a Muslim riot in Paris and just asking questions like, hey, man, how do you feel about this whole Sharia law thing? Blah, 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 blah. Just with a smile on his face, completely oblivious to the fact that he is surrounded by people who want to kill him. God bless him, man. I love the kid. I really, really do. So he jumped into the middle of this Somalia thing. And you know what? We can come back to the Somalia thing if we have time at the end of it. But just to go through. The bullet point that I had for this is the problem with the Somalia equation is that it's the really, really terrible tens of thousands that screw it up for the other 7. Yeah, few bad apples. Immediately he faced backlash. The video that this backlash was about was a dude literally walking up and threatening to beat his ass, and then later, predictably, YouTuber Nick Shirley received serious death threats after a $100 million daycare expose. Here's the thing. What did he do? He went to a couple of daycares and took some videos. The scandal was already there. The trials, the indictments, the convictions, they were already there. All he did was show up at the daycare and take some footage. Okay? For that, it's about to cost him his life for the sake of exposing him. What did Nick Shirley do that was so abjectly evil that you're threatening his life over it? What? What mortal sin did this little milquetoast looking kid possibly commit? Oh, yeah. He offended the fundamentalist religion of wokeism. That all cultures are created equal, that if you question the sanity or practicality of the bureaucracy, or if you question fraud using taxpayer funds, if you question that NGOs are largely scams, and that certain cultures are more prone to taking advantage of these, certain cultures from certain countries are more prone to preying on these sorts of programs in a representative democracy, that you are an apostate, not apostate, you're an infidel, definitely of the highest order, and you've got to be murdered. Um, Somali fraud exposed. Trump halted 5.5 million in funds. That's kind of like closing the barn door after the livestock have already escaped into the wilderness and are being torn apart by wolves. He stopped 5.5 million that were headed that was headed to Minnesota, but this is after literally and potentially up to $8 billion had already gotten out the gate. So, taking all this into account, I went through, just did a real quick search. Here's some things, and I'll tell you what search terms I used, just so you can find this stuff yourself, and that way I don't have to rant on and on and on and on about it. Here's the thing. The narrative now has become this. Okay, wait a minute. Let me go to Pam Bondi first. Pam Bondi's not going to perp walk anybody, and we both know it. DOJ charges 98. 98 are charged in Minnesota, and they're going to be convicted as well. But see, that speaks to some other things that we're about to jump into right here. Here are some of the convictions. Right now, that stands to reason, doesn't it? Right? We already know who the suspects are. We already know who they're taking advantage are. And there have been 3 high-profile cases where, in fact, this whole group of suspects with millions of dollars, and a jury took 1 hour to deliberate to come back with a unanimous guilty verdict, only to have a judge throw out the verdict. Find them not guilty, dismiss all charges against them with prejudice. They can't be brought up again. What the hell are you talking about? Yeah, it happened. You can look this up for yourself. It's happened 3 times now with 3 different judges, where unanimous jury verdicts have come back finding these defendants guilty, and the judges throw out the verdict. And the basis that they always use is that there is a possible other explanation, that they did not have criminal intent. It's that culturally they did not understand the criminality of what they're doing. Now, again, see if you can see some themes developing here. Here's a theme shot number 1. These were the people who were found guilty unanimously by a jury, and they deliberated for less than an hour. Here are the 3 judges in question that dismissed the cases in each of the 3. Do you see a pattern here? And guys, you can freeze this when you're watching the replay and go look up the cases for yourselves. I'm not going to elaborate on all this stuff. It's right there. You can freeze it. You can go do the homework on your own, and I encourage you to do so. Again, I'm not the guru here. Let me see if we can do it. Let's go through it one more time. These are the suspects, right? Found guilty, unanimous jury verdict, less than an hour deliberation. These are the judges that in 3 separate of these cases overturned the verdict and said they didn't know they were doing anything wrong, and it's a cultural problem. Do you see a theme developing here? Awfuls. What is an awful? Awful. Affluent, white, female, urban, liberal. Awful. And these ladies are truly awful judges. Truly awful judges by any reasonable definition. This is the pattern. This gets back into the apology. Do you understand? Whether I don't want to make the leap and say that they're actively involved in the corruption and that they're overturning the verdicts because they've got money riding on this and they're trying to cover the people that are paying them off. That's a possibility, but I don't want to jump to that conclusion. Again, it comes back to this sense of collective guilt, this collective apology we're getting into. And again, speaking of awfuls and awfuls that are enabling this crime, here's one of the people at the daycare that Nick Shirley's video. Oh, look, right over that shoulder. Look, behind every Somali man is an awful making his life possible out of some misplaced sense of guilt. But there she is, and he's dressed up in his New York Yankees cap and his several $100 sunglasses. Do the homework on that. Talking about how Nick Shirley's video, this man's work, And the hatred of the Somali community now that is inspired by Nick Shirley and how his place was vandalized. And then they go on with the optics of, okay, here's the kick door, right? Okay, yeah, the kick door, yeah, the kicked in door, that looks totally reasonable, doesn't it? Yeah. And then we dig a little deeper. Why was this part of the break-in footage? This was obviously cut from the inside. The break was obviously done from the inside. Do you think the awfuls are even going to take the time to process what they're looking at? No, they're going to see that and go, oh my God, this poor hatred, this hatred that's going on because of that awful man, Nick Shirley. Oh man, I should find the closest Somalian and apologize. Nobody ever asked them to. It's a guilt trip that is deep seated in them, and it needs to end because the numbers don't lie. I'm going to, again, real quick rundown. These were the search modes that I used. And we'll lead off with the one that set me down this because the narrative right now is Somali community reacts to the scandal. We want to know how the Somalis feel about the scandal. And my response is, I don't give a damn. I don't care how they feel about the scandal. I give less than 2 flying at 6 rolling donuts how they feel about the scandal. Don't tell me that it's a few bad apples. This is a cultural thing. Do not tell me that there is any place in a Western industrialized nation for people who are socially geared. Do you think that Somalia is the festering sore of a nation that it is because of outside factors? Or do you think that maybe these tribal cultures have made it that way and kept it that way for generation after generation after generation? I'll tell you what, I don't care how they feel about it. I don't care how a culture with a ridiculous percentage of first cousin marriage, yeah, 70+%, as low as 59%, depending on who you believe and what study you're looking at. 59 to 70% first cousin marriage, a borderline, or excuse me, a baseline IQ of 68, and 97% of their women have been subject to female genital mutilation. People who have sex and breed with their cousins with a sub 70 IQ, where it is culturally acceptable to steal and rob, and they think of you as being stupid if you're victimized for being dumb enough to be victimized, and a culture where 97% of their women, and I'm going to get graphic here, apologies in advance, have had their clits cut out and their snatches stitched shut as a culturally accepted ritual. I don't care how the Somali community feels about anything. My only question is, what the hell are they doing here? A few of them fleeing a war zone. First of all, having to cross an ocean to get here in the first place, when you've got Arab nations that love you all around where you can keep marrying your cousin and cutting your little girl's clits out. But you come all the way over here, a small percentage of them being trucked over here, legitimately fleeing a war zone, that are smart enough to assimilate, would be something. These numbers, no way. No way. The melting pot is not a suicide pact. It's also a myth, but even assuming it were true, it's not a suicide pact. These people have no place here. Is that harsh? Sure. Most truths are. They have no place here. None. It is not possible for these people to assimilate. I took one look at it. This is what it said. 9-second Google searches. This particular case that got brought up, this fellow right here, and this was the kicker, on top of the cousin boning and the female genital mutilation, this guy right here, Somalian raped a 12-year-old girl repeatedly in the back of a car, snatched her right out of the schoolyard, threw her in the back of the car, and raped her repeatedly. And the community center wrote a letter of support. And do you know what that letter of support said? Again, fact check me on all this. That letter of support said that he is adjusting to being in a new culture. If any part of your culture makes that even remotely anything but evil, you don't belong here, nor does your culture. Get the hell out. I'm standing on business with that one. That makes me a bad person. Well, I'm just going to have to be a bad person, because guess what? This guy that raped the 12-year-old in the back seat of the car and got the letter of support from the Somali Community Center, he was turned loose by a judge that looked a lot like one of these three. You can look that up too. Within a week, he had raped another girl, 15 years old. Enough is enough. Get him gone. Don't care. I don't want to hear a few bad apples. This is a bucket of worms that we're fishing around in, trying to find a single apple, and we're yet to find one. Gone. Period. End of statement. Done. A few bad apples? Yeah, that's the problem with the Somali community. It's the few bad 100,000 that screw it up for the other 7. At this point, it's worth it to me to see 7 perfectly good, perfectly salvageable human beings get shipped out, if the alternative is having these savages living among us. That is my position. I will not back down one iota from it. I will not apologize for it. If you're waiting around for that, well, I suggest you do what J.D. Vance told you. I'm not apologizing for my complexion, and I'm damn sure not apologizing for that position. That is that. The few bad apples, huh? Yeah. Few bad 100,000 that spoiled it for the other 7. So let's jump into what we all came here for, shall we? I know you guys are wanting to hear about it on the the Colombian front. There you go. Exactly. Arab nations won't take them. United Arab Emirates, Saudis, they all view them as garbage. Yep, there you go. You know what? I'm going to roll this back because I'm sure I missed some. I'm sure I missed some very important things over here. Let me see. Go over, not always, because there's always a good conversation going on over here. While I'm ranting and raving, you guys are having a much more interesting conversation than anything that put out on PBD says. Okay. Yes. Okay. Got it. We must be talking about Nick Shirley. Yeah, we got to be talking about Nick Shirley. There we go. On PBD, he said he's a virgin, a Christian, a Mormon, super good kid that we'd all love to have. I completely can see that. I can completely see that. What is that? As long as no pork or fish, I would be down to trust. I must be talking about the gumbo. My goodness. My goodness. Beef tongue the other week and loved it. George, welcome to the party, pal. Good stuff. Beef tongue, yes. Russian delicacy. Yes, sir, indeed. Let me see. You had that with a Finn. I'm dying to meet this Finnish friend of yours, Preacher George. Let me see. My goodness, man. This whole time I'm ranting and raving about Somalians, and you guys are having a culinary discussion over here. I love it. This is what I love about my circle. You guys have so many areas of interest and so many talents that I can just babble incoherently, and you guys are going to find more interesting stuff to talk about. And I'm going to come back and go, yeah, man, I think I've been paying attention to you guys too. Sub D can go into Dallas Wednesday. Want those Russian marinated tomato? Hey, whoa, Sonny, whoa. Yo, hold up. Okay. All right, bro. All right. It's my own fault. It's my own fault because I am legendary and very outspoken about no veggies. Vegetables are not food. Vegetables are what food eats. I understand. So I'm not personally offended. But if I am not introduced to these delightfully mentioned Russian marinated tomatoes, I will be inclined to take offense on the level that you would if I were to show up after a batch of Nordic smoked barbecue ribs and I brought you the bones. I'm really, really going to be hurt. So I understand how it was an oversight. I'm not personally wounded, anything like that. Deacon Mark, Russian marinated tomatoes, man. Yes. What is that, George? Yeah, throw Borscht against you. I freaking love my circle of friends. What is this, Sister Emmy? There's a Russian food truck that prowls New Caney. Wow, man. It's gone by the time I got my money in my hand. That would be something worth checking out. Let me see. Brett actually tracking on the topic. Somalis with an IQ 60 didn't figure out the system on their own. Those judges were told to squash it. Poor showed them how they got exposed. I completely agree, brother. I completely agree. Wait, does that mean Ilhan Omar is not only clueless, but quite possibly clitless? Joel, I'm glad you brought that up because I have a theory. The reason why Ilhan Omar is always so irritated and aggressive and angry and hardly ever smiles is because the woman has never had a clitoral orgasm. You would be constantly in a bad mood and hating life too if all the sensitive nerve endings in the head of your equipment were removed. Or, God forbid, the better part of your equipment was removed from you before you were even old enough to appreciate it. There's an old joke. There's an old joke about the Jews and circumcision that the Jews are the most faithful people on the planet because they take a little piece of your cock and send it to heaven before you even know how long it's going to be. So yeah, I thought that was probably probably in bad taste as with most things, but no, the female genital mutilation thing is no freaking joke. That's no freaking joke. 97%. Listen, man, feel about it however you want, ladies. About it however you want. But if you can put your support behind a culture that, as a matter of culture, it's the same thing with the Muslim countries, where, as a matter of state policy, all religions are equally violent. Here come the false equivalencies. As a matter of state policy, behead homosexuals. Show me one Christian nation in the developed world that does that, and I'll shut right up. When you confront these people about the cultural acceptance of female genital mutilation, it is inevitable. It never fails. When I confront women with this, it's like, listen, if you can support this genital mutilation, I don't ever want to hear another word from you about violence against women. They literally cut the clits off their little girls and stitch them shut. And every time, without exception, what do they hit me back with? You guys already know. You guys know because you probably had the same experience yourself. Well, here in America, they circumcise boys. So, right. Again, sorry for the graphic nature of it, but for some of these people, it's just not registering. So let me see if I can iron this out for you a little bit. Okay. Here we got my little Darth Vader helmet, right? And there's a little piece of skin that comes over the top of it. Just some skin, there's some nerve endings in there, but nothing really major, right? Okay. We can pull that up. Look, I'm not thrilled about male circumcision being a rite of passage in this culture myself. I'm not. I'm pretty happy with how mine turned out. I like my happy little fireman. I'm all about it, right? But I'm not thrilled with the fact that it's just a de facto fallback thing. Every little boy has to be circumcised. I'm not down with that, okay? But what you're trying to equate, here's the happy little fireman and a little piece of skin that pulls up over here like a little turtleneck. Yeah, okay, there. And we're going to clip that skin. Snippy, snippy. And the skin is gone and the flesh remains intact. We're going to equate that with, again, let me line this out for you here, stretching a little girl out, and if you're lucky, it's a scalpel or a razor blade. Over there, it could be a broken piece of glass or a sharp rock, and with that ritual sharp rock, they cut out and remove the external portion of the clitoris and the hood, and then Then it gets really delightful. Using hopefully sterile needles and sutures, they stitch shut your vaginal opening. Depending on how the guy's feeling, he may or may not leave your labia intact. But if that looks like you're a little too meaty, you're leaning a little Arby's, we're gonna cut those out while we're here. Jeez, Bart, that's graphic. That's the point. And this is a part of their culture. If that isn't done to your daughter, they look at it as there's something wrong with you. Leaving aside banging your first cousin and a sub 70 IQ being the baseline standard, I'd say that's kind of a disqualifier. Those people have no place here. None. I will die on this hill. So, Red, I had to watch my former stepson suffer through a medically necessary circumcision at 9 years old. God bless you and God bless him. I could not imagine. I was clipped straight away, right out of the birth canal. I was adopted shortly after being born. I think maybe within a week after being born, I was delivered to my adoptive parents. Um, they told me the story that I still, and in fact, as disturbing and creepy as this is, my mother has this to this day little plastic ring that they had on my equipment to hold that in place. Yeah, once they retract it and they snip it, there's a plastic ring that they put in. My mother still has this ring to this day. Do with that what you will. Creepy enough. I'd rather not talk about it, but yeah, there it is. Again, culture is culture, but don't try to draw those equivalencies. All right, man. So let's get into the home stretch. I know you guys are here for the Venezuela thing, and I know we're going to have some differences of opinion here. And guys, while we've got a lively conversation going on over here, while we've got that going on, I want you guys to drop in your comments how you feel about what I am saying. Now, I am not down for foreign wars. It isn't what I voted for. When I said America first, and when he said America first, we all knew that there were going to be places where he was going to deviate from that. I don't think anybody was looking for ideological puritanism. But here's how I'm feeling about it, and I think I covered it most. I covered most of it completely in the opener. If we wind up with boots on the ground in Venezuela and it turns into a multi-generation war, then I will gladly concede. Okay. Speaking of false equivalencies, limited strikes like the Iran strike and snatching Maduro out of his palace, to me, equating that with the debacle of the Bush junta and the Iraq war and the war in Afghanistan, equating the Iran strikes and the Maduro snatching to that, to me, is a false equivalency on the level of equating little firemen with female genital mutilation. It is not the same thing. I'm not, let me be abundantly clear at the outset. I have not lost my mind. I have not lost my frame of reference. I certainly have not become a Zionist overnight. If that's what you guys were wondering and you thought I'd stepped completely outside my mind, I am fully aware of the fact that Israel is going to want to put their hands in the mix and has already taken measures to do so. Of course they are. They call that a day that ends in the letter Y. They will always try to put their hands in the mix. I have never believed that this had anything to do with narcotics. It's always been about the oil. Perfectly aware of that. Here's my take on it. We are looking at fifth generation warfare. And again, change my mind, prove me wrong, whatever, drop it in the comments, send me an email, hit me with a phone call, an angry text message. I'm just telling you how I'm looking at it right now in the context of this moment. I'll give you a historical breakdown. This all started back in 76, right? Again, with regard to, here we go, first term 70s, because I pulled up all of my resources in 76. That was the year that Venezuela nationalized the oil industry right off the bat. They created their Petroleos Day, whatever, that was basically the equivalent of what is now BP, the Anglo-Iranian oil concern that would later become British Petroleum. They invited U.S. oil companies in there. We need help getting this out of the ground. We need help refining it. We need the export market. We need to put this money to work for the Venezuelan people, blah, blah, blah. They let these oil companies go in, build up at their own expense. The oil companies went in, built all this massive infrastructure, and then started seizing stuff. Oh, yeah, thanks for building all this for us, man. We're going to nationalize all this. All your rigs belong to us. All your refineries belong to us. That would have been bad enough. But then when things started shifting, and by the time Hugo Chavez came into power, again, the people loved him. Of course they do. That is the way it always works. You're swept into power on big promises. Dude, it's an excellent point, Sonny. It's an excellent point. And I'm not trying to diminish any of that. Not trying to diminish any of that. I realize he's snatching the guy. I realize he's snatching the guy out of place. I realize that this is running up against all kinds of constitutional principles. At the end of the day, Maduro was a man who stole an election in broad daylight. So I can understand why the Democrats would be behind that. I can completely understand why they can get behind that. He stole an election in broad freaking daylight. All of those resources were about to be placed under control of the Chinese Communist Party. I'm not okay with that. I'm not. And again, speaking with regard to false equivalencies, okay? Flexing muscle on the other side of the world in a sandbox that nobody could find on an unmarked globe, in countries that they've never heard of, on behalf of Arab nations that people have no idea the history of. Iran, for example. I'm perfectly aware of all the things that we did in Iran that set this thing off. The CIA coup against Mohammad Mossadegh that ushered in Shah Reza Pahlavi, and he and the Savak, secret police, all of that. Terrible things. We set that off. We're experiencing the backlash of it to this day. Chances are 20 years from now, we'll be experiencing the backlash of whatever involvement we get into now. If a Shah returns to power in Iran, whatever puppet government gets installed, and it will be a puppet government. You and I both know that. We're not naive. Whatever government gets installed in Venezuela is going to be a U.S. puppet government. That is how the CIA works. That is how the government works. The biggest factor for me is the fact that it's in our own backyard. It's in our own backyard. And an adversary has designs on us in our hemisphere. We're both old enough to remember the Reagan era, and I think, Sonny, that'd be a conversation for you and I to have privately over a cup of coffee. What the perspective was in the Soviet Union about what was going on in Nicaragua and El Salvador, the Contras, all the things that went on there. Reagan took a stand because our adversary at the time, and no, I'm not just wholesale accepting everything that I was told. We're talking now in terms of the generally understood historical narrative. You had an adversarial power, in this case, the Soviet Union, that had designs in this hemisphere. They were doing the same thing that we had basically done in Chile and are in the process of doing right now in Venezuela. And they were doing the same things in Nicaragua and El Salvador. In the same sense that I am 100% opposed to our involvement in Ukraine, that the Russians are standing for their own interest and have been from the beginning, that we put our filthy little fingers in their filthy little pies over there with Zelensky, and Putin was 100% justified in intervening. The only difference here is that we don't share a common border, but they are definitely in our hemisphere. They are definitely being influenced by the Chinese Communist Party. There are definite security concerns with them having a presence there in the Panama Canal, and they're in Venezuela. The action itself, in and of itself, in as much as what's been accomplished in the last 72 hours, as far as I'm concerned, I'm behind it. Now, if other details are brought to my attention or other perspectives are brought to my attention that I haven't had time to process, Sonny, as you and I are both fond of saying, I reserve the right to change my opinion. What I'm making the statement on is right now, no foreign involvements. No foreign involvements. We don't have that luxury. If we're going to pick our foreign involvements, I can justify, and it's interesting that you brought up Taiwan. I don't think we have any business in Taiwan. That's on the other side of the freaking world, man. That's something that's something that was put together before you or I either one got here. All right? We have treaty obligations to defend them. But our presence in Taiwan, I would submit to you, is not expansionist. You're entirely within your rights to disagree. But even though I don't happen to believe that it's expansionist, I will concede I don't think we got any business there either. I don't know how many times I've said it right here on the sermon for everybody to hear. We can save the nation or we can save the empire. We can't save both. A strike like that in Venezuela, in our backyard, as far as I'm concerned, on the information that I have available right now, is in the interest of saving the nation. It wasn't about narcotics. It was always about the oil. But if it's going to be about the oil, no, NATO. Come on. When did I ever offer my support for that, bro? Come on. We've had that conversation. I don't believe NATO's borders. First of all, I don't believe we need to be involved in NATO, period, anymore. Particularly in light of the fact that every single one of those NATO member nations that are also part of the European Union have opened their doors wide open to Jihad Johnny and the Mohammed Minion Brigade. They are literally being overrun. And here's one for you, Sonny, because I know you've entertained this thought. Why do we even need to bomb Iran? To stop their nuclear program? Why do they need to build? Oh, okay, sorry. I was like, damn, man, that was kind of rough. Okay, sorry for elevating a little bit. I know, Bart, breathe, breathe, breathe. Let the tension come out. And I go, okay. Right? You just hear Clem like over my shoulder going, Bart, Bart, your traps. Let it go. All right, cool. Yeah. All right. So, um, but since I'm on that rant, feel free to jump in on this one. Here's a case that I'll entertain with regard to the Iran thing, right? I believe that that limited strike was justified. Sure. I do believe that that limited strike was justified. I'm also not stupid. I know that that was done on behalf of certain demographics with tiny hats. Don't have any illusions about that. But at the end of the day, it's irrelevant. The Iran nuclear program, if the Arab world, if Jihad Johnny and Muhammad's minions want a nuclear weapon, they don't need to build one anymore. They don't need to buy one anymore. Their weapon is going to be the womb. They are going to overwhelm the population, the white European native population of the UK and or France. And they are going to take control by way of free elections in the ballot box. The UK and France both have nuclear weapons. Do you think that when, and at this point it's when, a Muslim majority country takes control, a Muslim majority of the electorate rather, takes control of a nuclear armed European nation, do you think for 1 second that they're not going to take those weapons and sell them to other Arab member nations? What does this have to do with Venezuela? I'll tell you how it all comes together for me. Saving the nation versus saving the empire. Venezuela is in our backyard. I think we can all concede that communist China fully intends to be top dog in the global hegemony. And the global hegemonic order, China has every ambition of being top dog once this all shakes out. The only people who could possibly oppose them in that effort would be us or Mother Russia. Literally the only ones that would have the stroke to do that. Militarily, economically, culturally. The only thing that could stop China from being top dog in the global hegemonic order, top dog in the globalist new world order, for lack of a better word, us and the Russians. That's it. Venezuela was an intermediary. As far as I am concerned, Venezuela was an intermediary. They were serving the interests of the Chinese Communist Party. And they're having it pretty rough because, again, how well do you know the basic geography? Can you guys tell me, you know what, just out of curiosity, let's see who's up on it. Give me 2 countries that border Venezuela. Anybody, jump in. Give me 2 countries that border Venezuela. One's going to be even more important going forward. Speaking not with border countries, but just the region. You got Javier Milei, who is proving to the region, that right-wing populism can and should ultimately win. So that's putting some heat, some fire under the feet of the Chinese communists that are looking to flex their muscle there in Venezuela. They're being used as an intermediary. 5th generation warfare. You understand what we went over in the opener here, rolling down through that, but 5th generation warfare and hybrid warfare. This is an all-out effort. You understand that they sell the precursor chemicals to the cartels barely over cost. All the pill presses that they use to make identical tablets that look just like hydrocodone, the ones that killed a dear friend of mine because he thought he was taking hydros. They sold those pill presses to him at cost. The cartels just want to make money. The Chinese want to see us erode. This is hybrid warfare. This is fifth generation warfare. You undermine the social fabric. You put your supply chains, start putting those together pre-invasion. As I was saying before, there's no hope of a red dawn. They don't have any illusions about some red dawn scenario here in the United States because their supply chain would be overextended. The supply lines would be overextended. So it's no mystery why they're buying up farmland and factories here in the United States and why our politicians are letting them. Venezuela is just one possible domino. They were being used as an intermediary for the Chinese communists to establish a foothold here, economically, militarily, ultimately. A whole lot of weapon systems getting sold to those guys, some of which came from Mother Russia. Unpleasant, but there it is. But primarily Chinese. Trying to establish a foothold in this hemisphere, trying to establish a foothold right at our back door. The same complaint, legitimate complaint, that Russia would have had about NATO expansionism. Well, yeah, man, but we're 3 borders away. It's no big deal. Oh, wait, we're 2 borders away. It's not a big deal. Oh, now we're talking about making Ukraine a member nation, and we're going to be right on your doorstep. You don't have a problem with that, though, right? We said it here before. If when I have talked about my position on Ukraine and the Russians being justified, being pissed off about that, what have I said? If the Chinese put their weapon systems in Canada or Mexico, how do you think we'd react? Well, now we got a chance to find out, didn't we? Not quite Mexico. But for those of you who don't know basic geography, pull up Google Maps. It's right there next to you. Clickety click. Right there on your phone. Pick it up. Bing, 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 bing. It's right there. No excuse to be ignorant about this. I don't want to see another Iraq happening in Iran. Guess what? It hasn't yet to materialize. Hasn't been necessary. Hit them once, hit them hard. Same thing we did to Muammar Gaddafi under Reagan. Same thing. Libya was the leading state sponsor of terror in the 1980s. After that discotheque bombing, and after Reagan pounding the hell out of him, Gaddafi promptly shut the hell up for 30 freaking years. Hit them once, hit them hard, make it count. Send a message. And thus, we haven't had to put boots on the ground in Iran. I believe at this moment, same thing is going on in Venezuela. No, it isn't about the narcotics. It is absolutely about the oil. Could we at least be grown-ups and admit that? But it being about the oil goes all the way back to the 1970s. I never did finish up on that timeline. 76 under Perez. He started nationalizing it. By the time Hugo Chavez had come to power, after his failed coup in 91? By the time he came to power in the early 2000s and turned that place into a complete communist-run narco-terror state, completely nationalized the oil industry, it was cheaper to buy gasoline there than it was to buy bananas at one point. And you give all this money to the people and they love you for it. That's the beauty of communism. But it didn't last. And eventually the people started paying the price for it. Mismanagement, corruption, cronyism, and it started bearing it, and he started taking it out on the people, suppressing them. Chavez, I'm talking about at this point. 2005, straight up. Chavez seizes assets from ExxonMobil and ConocoPhillips. The first Trump administration, severe sanctions prohibited U.S. firms from trading Venezuelan bonds and eventually barring all businesses within the Republic of Venezuela. What happened in 2022 under the Biden Muppet regime? They loosened up the sanctions. Said, yeah, well, Chevron can do business with them. No big deal. Who do you think Biden's cronies are banking on winning this thing? Us or the Chinese? Just a side note. February of this year, we nixed all the oil concessions that Biden had granted them. March the 12th of this year, we revoked Chevron's operating license, halting their operations. Then we started hitting the drug boats, and then we started hitting the oil tankers. According to an AI overview, Venezuela as a nation, and this has been adjudicated in international criminal courts, owes U.S. oil companies billions in unpaid arbitration awards, primarily due to ConocoPhillips, which they owe over $10 billion. $10 billion they owe to one company. ExxonMobil, they owe 1.5 and change for expropriated assets, not even including production, sales, just the assets that they have stolen from them. Venezuela has paid a fraction of that. There are other claims. Key details on debts owed. ConocoPhillips was awarded over $10 billion in 2007 for assets seized by Chavez. ExxonMobil awarded over $1 billion for expropriated assets. Venezuela has paid next to nothing. Chevron, only major U.S. oil company still operating in Venezuela, producing about a quarter of its oil, but also has claims and operates under specific license. Their total external debt, including the oil sector obligations, is estimated to be between 150 and 170 billion dollars. That's billion with a B. Why can't they pay the money if they've got all that oil? Because they don't know what they're doing. The same reason Rhodesia collapsed when they kicked out Bad Whitey. They are incapable of managing this. They're collapsing under their own weight. And I will say that Maduro stole that election in broad freaking daylight. It's a long conversation for another day, but I will stand on my opinion that election was stolen. It was that the opposition is standing on business. We don't have any duty to the Venezuelan people to put boots on the ground and enforce some, long-standing. This doesn't need to be another Iraq or Afghanistan, and it won't be, in my humble opinion. But in and of itself, what's happening right now, for the sake of the fact that they were being the intermediaries for a communist adversary from halfway around the world, they were putting a footprint here in our backyard, same way the Soviet Union did during the Reagan era. El Salvador, Nicaragua, Ecuador to a lesser degree, some activity in Colombia. What about Mexico? Well, that's a good question, isn't it? I believe that this is going to send a signal. Now, again, I could be wrong. Maybe the guys that are saying this is all just another tiny hat tribe trick with their president Shine Bomb. Their president Shine Bomb. What was I got to pull this up. I got to pull this up if I can find it. In any case, that they're orchestrating this whole thing, that this is all just an Israeli game. That's entirely possible. President Scheinbaum, part of the law firm of, if it'll pull up here, part of the law firm of Everystein, Singelberg, and Timowitz. I gotta pull this up, man. I need to. Yeah, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna piss everybody off here, and I'm just gonna go ahead and post that because it's a funny little meme. It is a funny little meme. I'll tell you what's not funny. It's the fact that we're standing in this punt, standing in this historical position. Here we go. Yep. Candace Owens has already decided what this is all about, and she has pronounced her verdict from on high as to who's orchestrating this. And predictably, anytime they're looking for international blame, everybody meets at Jew hate junction. I don't agree. I don't agree. I'm certainly not a Zionist, but you know what? Maybe I'm wrong. I could be entirely off base on all of this. Maybe it's me who's misinterpreting. Misinterpreting? I just made that up. It's a word now. I could be the one misinterpreting all of this. That is entirely possible. But I'll give you the final breakdown of the way I see it. Venezuela was an intermediary. The Monroe Doctrine, such as it was in the early days of the United States, was a damn good idea. If we cannot control affairs in our own freaking hemisphere, we're done. This is consistent with the previous statements that I've made about saving the nation but losing the empire. This isn't us annexing Mexico. This isn't us making member nations of Ecuador, Colombia, Argentina, Brazil. But when you've got those oil reserves, because guess what? If it's a clash of civilization, that's going to come down to resources, isn't it? The Chinese are very comfortable. They don't have much of their own developed oil resources, but they're right next door to Mother Russia, and they're very friendly with the Russians. If it really came down to it, they're not going to be hurting for oil. This is why if it finally came down to the Russians and the Chinese being at war for supremacy, my money's on the Russians. Landmass, resources, and just the sheer strength and tenacity of the Russian people, I believe that they would come out on top. Got nothing to do with this. China doesn't need Venezuela's oil if they have no designs in this hemisphere. Let me say that again. China doesn't need Venezuela's oil unless they have designs in this hemisphere. They don't need farmland in the continental United States and factories in the continental United States to produce Chinese products for Chinese citizens unless they have designs in this hemisphere. What they do to the rest of the world, I don't give a damn. We can't be Globocop anymore. I'm not about that. We can't have more multi-generational wars for empire and all these other things. The U.S. empire is coming to a close, whether we like it or not. But I'm not prepared to lose this nation, because if we lose this nation, we are losing Western civilization. Do you understand that? The only hope that will remain for Western civilization, oddly enough, is not a European power. It is the Russians, if we fall. They're smart enough to learn from our stupidity and our mistakes. We thought multiculturalism would work. We thought we could all be one big happy family. We thought we could violate the rule that it affected every empire throughout history, that we would never come to an end, that we would never overextend ourselves, that opening the borders to the Huns and the Vandals and the Visigoths, hell, man, they just want to come here for a better life, right, Rome? Nope. What matters about Venezuela is what happens from here out. If we wind up with boots on the ground, then I was completely wrong. If it winds up that the tiny hat crowd and the nation of Israel winds up benefiting more from the resources that we are seizing than we do, then that's certainly a problem, and I will gladly concede that I was wrong. But in this moment, right now, Venezuela, I give a bucket of warm piss for Maduro or any of his supporters. I am staunchly anti communist. That is a hill that I'm willing to die on. I didn't vote for a guy that's going around making regime change part of his day to day activities. You're damn right. I'm not thrilled about this. I'm not happy that it even came to this. I'm not happy that the previous 6 administrations have consolidated power to the executive branch so much that he's literally able to do this and not actually be doing anything against the law. I'm less thrilled with the fact that he couldn't consult Congress, not because he's trying to backdoor sneak around them, but for the fact that they would have leaked and destroyed the operation and people would have been killed. You really believe that? I absolutely believe it. Because it's now come out that Hakeem Jeffries, as soon as he got word of it, which was shortly after the operation was already underway, he scrambled to try to notify Maduro. In the same way that Mark Milley had sworn to notify his Chinese counterpart in the waning days of the first Trump administration. There are elements in the United States that seek to undermine and destroy it. There are political elements in the United States that are banking on, in this clash of civilizations, they are banking on globalism, which is a nice way of saying Chinese communist economic model. They are counting on the Chinese to win. They are hedging their bets accordingly, which means that they are actively working against the interests of the United States and its people. I won't abide that. I'm not okay with that. I'm not waving pom-poms for Trump and what he did here necessarily, but the action in and of itself, based on what I know now, was legit across the board. He snatched Maduro. What he does from here on is going to determine how I feel about the long-term effects of this whole thing. But I don't object. Dude, it was about the oil. Yeah, you're goddamn right it was. Oil reserves in this freaking hemisphere. Because in a clash of civilizations, in the long term, we are going to need resources. We've got a lot here, and we're doing our best to exploit them, despite the best efforts of the greenie weenies and the sustainable Green New Deal renewable energy crowd. We're doing our best to squeeze all of our resources out of the ground. But these are oil resources in our hemisphere. Would you rather have to fight for something right here in our backyard or travel halfway around the planet to get in somebody else's backyard and interfere with their affairs? If you think that isolationism is a luxury that we have at this point, I submit to you, sir or madam, that you're mistaken. Doesn't mean I'm thrilled about it, nor should you be. It just is. If we lose, I know, win, lose, good guy, bad guy, here we are, only a Sith thinks in absolutes. Which always bothered me about that quote, only a Sith thinks in absolutes. Really, Kenobi? Because that sounded like kind of a absolutist statement there. Anyway, good guy, bad guy, win, lose, all kind of shades of gray. Oversimplification. Maybe. But I am not prepared. I'm not prepared to just let it roll over. I'm not prepared to keep the moral puritanism of, well, that's against our principles. If your principles wind up getting you killed, of what good was the principle? We're devout non-interventionists. Cool, man. I'll be sure to put that on your tombstone. America first. Well, unless and until I see facts to the contrary, I'm seeing an action that was taken on behalf of American interests. And for once, it was actually on our side of the planet. That's progress. I'm not jumping for joy at the prospect of this. But if we've got to flex, let's flex in our own freaking backyard. I wouldn't deny that to anyone. I certainly wouldn't deny it. Speaking of the Russians, I certainly wouldn't deny it to them. That creeping expansionism with NATO. Hey, you may retort, well, that's not the same thing. Maybe it's not. Close enough. Close enough for my taste. You control the Panama Canal, you can lock down trade, again, in our hemisphere. You control Venezuela, you control the largest oil reserves, again, in our hemisphere. You sell chemicals that are being made into more lethal chemicals to send north of the border to do damage to the United States. You're doing that in our hemisphere. You empty your prisons and send those savages north to an administration that left the gate wide open for God knows who to cross over that border, and who knows how many of them are already here. There are legit forces out there that want us dead. It would be sad enough if all of them were foreign. It would be sad enough if all of them emanated from the Muslim world or from Red China. That would be sad enough. But sadder still is the fact that many of those elements that seek to undermine and destroy us, or at least facilitate our own destruction, are right here in the United States. Many of them serving as elected representatives. You guys know I have always tried to adhere to the principle of clean up your own backyard before you go knocking on your neighbor's door. Before we get involved in the Arab world on the other side of the planet, before we send one more freaking dime to Ukraine or any NATO member nation. Ukraine isn't there yet. They're pushing for it. You guys get the message? Before we go halfway across the planet and send one more dollar to freaking Ukraine or any of the nations in the European Union currently being overwhelmed, how about we clean up our own backyard? As far as I am concerned, Venezuela is our backyard. And if you want to know whether we did the right thing, for us, that's going to play out over the next year or two. We get to see how it all shakes out and who's going to do what. But I guarantee you, if you took the time tonight and just phone one at random and asked the Venezuelan people how they feel about it, I got a feeling they're going to approve. And in the final analysis, their opinion is the only one that matters anyway. They're the only opinion that carries any weight, and even my American pale-face ass needs to shut the hell up. Mind my own business. But I guarantee you ask them tonight, they're going to feel pretty good about what we did. Send me your opinions. Send me your objections. Send me your information of which I had not been previously aware. See that? Grammar Nazi. Didn't in a sentence with preposition. Send me your information of which I had been previously unaware. Change my mind. Prove me wrong. I'm totally good with that. But again, the beauty of that is that we can all come over here Again, maybe I could be wrong because I haven't really been paying attention to the haven't been paying attention to the conversation over here, but it might have gotten a little heated. Might have gotten a little heated. I'm sure there were some disagreements, but that's the beauty of this is that when I look over here at the comments, that I don't see ideological lockstepping, that I don't see everybody going, yes, we must follow the will of dear leader because he is ordained. I don't see that. I see people getting angry. I see people getting opinionated. What I don't see is people feeling the need to one off and isolate. And that's the beauty of us. What do you mean by us? You know exactly what I mean by us. Like minds, kindred spirits. Some of us share the faith, some of us don't. But we are all genuine, thinking, human freaking beings. We can get heated. We can vehemently disagree, shout at each other. But in the final analysis, I'll damn sure take that over whatever goals the other side would have ordained. So as long as we keep talking, like Charlie Kirk admonished us, may he rest in peace. When we stop talking is when bad things start to happen. So thank you guys for coming on and entertaining a fat, crippled, toothless crane operator with some opinions. Let me get this off my chest. And maybe you'll take it and be like, hey, man, Bart isn't as smart as I thought he was. That's cool. Maybe you'll think, hey, man, shoot, I didn't think about it from that standpoint. Maybe I need to rethink something. Yeah. Maybe you guys will throw something at me where I'm like, damn, man, I really had not taken that into account. I was categorically wrong on that, and I apologize. But I'm glad that we can all get together and have these conversations. I really am. So, God bless every single one of y'all for participating. God bless every single one of y'all for being my friends and the people that are close to me in real life, and y'all know who you are. People who have been a blessing to my life. Thank you for that as well. Happy New Year to each and every one of you. I'm going to close with a prayer and I'm going to let y'all get out of here. Heavenly Father, I thank you. I thank you for the gift of oration, being able to communicate ideas. I thank you for brothers in Christ and brothers that aren't in the faith that are willing to listen, bring their own thoughts to the discussion. I thank you for the gift of living in as relatively free, industrial, Western nation, literally the greatest nation on earth, to be alive in this place, in this moment, surrounded by men and women like these. I give you thanks for that. Remind me, Lord, in all my belligerence, to remain always grounded in humility and gratitude, consistently grateful for every single blessing you have put before me, including the people that are blessings, including the adversities that make me stronger as a minister and warrior for the kingdom, including those blessings. But more importantly, to remain rooted in humility. Because in the final analysis, regardless of anything that's going on in the world, we are all broken. We are all broken, wretched, and sinful. That we are redeemed only by the grace and mercy bought by the blood of your Son at Golgotha. that we exist only by that grace. Keep us mindful of that and to serve the kingdom in all things. Omnia ad regnum, all things for the kingdom. Keep us all focused to that end, Lord. We stand ready to serve. Send me into that valley of dry bones and let me raise you up an army, Lord. Bring your children home. Bring your army together. And may the day come quickly that every knee shall bow and every tongue confess. May your kingdom come sooner than later. Pray in the mighty name of Jesus. Amen. God bless y'all, man. God bless y'all. Thank you. Every one of y'all, man. Thank you. You don't know what it means to y'all don't know what it means to me to not feel like some lunatic, you know. I mean, clearly, but the way the adversary keeps a lot of us in fear is by that sense of isolation, you know. It's that sense of isolation. Keeps us from having these important conversations because we're afraid that we might be that lone voice in the wilderness, and that fear keeps us from saying the things that need to be said in the moments that they need to be said. Don't ever fall victim to that. Get comfortable making other people uncomfortable. Let that be the strength of your faith, and may God bless you to that end in the coming year. I'm the Reverend, and that is the gospel, boys and girls. I'm going to pass that digital collection plate around. You guys already know, man. I'm on whatever, Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, yada, yada, yada. You guys know the drill. If you guys want to drop a little something in the digital collection plate, that would be cool. If not, tell you what you can do for me. Share the episode. Share clips thereof. Get the word out, man. Spread that gospel. Share it on your own Facebook page, your own Twitter feed, Instagram, whatever you have. But here's what you can do, guys. Above and beyond all things, and don't do this for me. Do this for yourselves. Stone, if you're still here, you already know. Hashtag, baby, live the three. Live the three? What are you talking about? Talking about the 3 prime directives, people. Talking about living those prime directives. The 3 rules of life here on Planet Park. The directives. Live the 3, baby. Directive number 1, you got to be signal in a world full of noise. They'll try to bury you with the noise, man. What is the noise? It's the distractions. It's the lies. It's the obfuscations. Obfuscations, that's my college word. I got like 3 of those. Anyway, that's the noise. They'll try to bury you in that. The signal is the truth. You got to be willing to break through the noise with that signal of truth. You got to be the light in a world full of darkness, and they will try to bury you with the darkness. Smother you with it. Emasculate you, eviscerate you, dehumanize you, demoralize you with that darkness. You have got to be that light, and you got to be able to carry that light, guys, going forward. It's the most important part of all, man. You got to be able to carry that light, because sometimes that fog can drag on for a long, long time and be too thick to even see through. You got to be able to carry that light, which brings you to the 3rd rule, the final rule, the iron rule. You have got to be strength in a world full of weakness. And strength means a lot of things. I'm not, strength, yeah, that's cool. But it can't just be here and here. It's got to be here. It's got to be here. Most of all, it's got to be here, fellas. Find your spines and let your nuts drop. Why? Because without strength, none of the rest of it matters. Without strength, you're not going to be able to punch that signal through the noise. Without strength, you're not going to have the tenacity, the endurance, the wherewithal to carry that light through a long-lasting darkness and slog through the mud to carry that light to where it needs to be and bring that light to the darkness. Without strength, none of the rest of it matters. So when you pray for strength. And when you hit your knees at night, and you need to be hitting your knees every night, you pray for strength, but you also pray for clarity and discernment. Because no matter how strong you are, how much truth you're speaking, the father of lies is always out there looking to trip you up. screw you up, man, scramble your brain. So you need to use your discernment. You got to have that clarity. Strength, clarity, and discernment above all things. When you hit your knees to pray, hit those knees and pray. Get your face in some scripture and your ass under some iron going into 2026. And I promise you, on my word, your life is going to be a better place. God bless you all, man. Boss man's got the plan. Carpenter's got your back. Let the Spirit work through you. I love each and every one of y'all, man. God bless. Thank you. God willing, we'll see you next Sunday. Meantime, stay strong. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Peace.